Go ahead and start, Sally. I want to first give acknowledgments to Sally, who does this awesome job on the slides. They're so professional and they're very dramatic this year. I was really impressed when she showed me the first go at them. And then, of course, to all the students who so willingly participated today. We wouldn't be having this program if they weren't willing to share their work. So I thank them. And I also want to acknowledge them for their commitment. I appreciate their commitment and respect them for the work they've been doing. We've been at this for a few years now, so I appreciate the fact that they're still willing to take the journey. So, okay, let's go ahead, Sally.
You want to introduce yourself, Lois?
Oh, okay. I guess I just assumed everybody knows. I was thinking earlier, I've kind of gone through an evolution of members. I didn't know all the initial charter members, but some of them. And it's interesting that the organization has gone through, an evolution as well. It's very interesting. I'm just, so happy there are still people so interested in sumi-e as well as Shodō. And I just, is Jeannie with us today? She can maybe unmute and say, I have a question for her because I was going to be talking about a particular aspect of Shodō later where we create characters that might look like what they mean. And I think the most effective results of that was a piece I saw from Fumiko many years ago. At any rate, I had the privilege and the honor of working under both Fumiko and Mary, 2 out of the 3 founders. I was always interested in ikebana, but unfortunately Anne started having, I think, her vision problems, and I was able to get to know her at a few of the initial meetings I attended, and then she wasn't able to participate after that. So I regret that. I think they'd be very pleased to see how active the group is still and how interested they are in both sumi-e and Shodō. I did a 180 in my professional career, literally halfway through my life. So I started studying sumi-e. Let me just jump back. I grew up with my grandparents. Many of you might know this already, but I grew up with my grandparents, and they often went to Japan. And one year, my grandfather brought back this huge calligraphy piece that the priest from the neighboring neighborhood temple had created, and it hung over the couch in the living room. And I thought, someday I want to learn how to do that. And when the opportunity came, when I had time to, take classes, I actually had the opportunity to start studying sumi-e first with Fumiko. And I had always heard that calligraphy would help your sumi painting. And then I started studying with Mary. And again, many of you know this story where after a few years of studying Shodō, Mary came to me and separately, and as did Fumiko, and they each commented that they had seen a change in my work. So that was just, wonderful, exciting news. And for those that may not know the history well, that sumi-e evolved from calligraphy. So calligraphy is an ancient art form. Basically, we can trace it back at least 4,000 to 5,000 years when the Chinese first started working with pictographs, and we'll go over those a little bit later. And then with the invention of handmade paper in about 105 AD, they were able to formalize calligraphy, and then it became an art form in itself. After hundreds of years, the calligraphers became more spontaneous with their brushwork, and that's how sumi painting evolved. So you can see why there's such a close tie between sumi-e and Shodō. I have a hard time teaching Shodō without referring to sumi-e aspects and vice versa. Okay, I think we should go ahead and begin. That's enough rambling for now. So let's go ahead. So we're going to, this year, we're going to be able to see 4 out of the 5 calligraphy styles. The oldest that we're going to work with today is Tensho. It's a seal script or clerical, it's the seal script. The seal script is a style of writing Chinese characters that was common throughout the latter half of the first millennium. The thickness of the strokes is almost the same throughout the character. The overall shape is rectangular with a height to width ratio of 2:3. The feeling is grave, lacking expressiveness. So at some point, I'd like to write a little article about calligraphy because it's very interesting. Each of the styles was developed during a particular time in history for often for certain reasons, which can be very interesting. So this is an example of eternity in the seal script. Okay, Sally. The next style is Kaisho, the formal or block style. Precisely drawn lines give a feeling of power and control. Brushwork in this style uses exact angular strokes, which give a work its solid and highly controlled appearance. Kaisho is typically the first style studied to practice the correct stroke order required for each kanji or character and to get used to handling the brush to create the 8 basic strokes. So this is eternity in block style. Traditionally, this is the character that's used because it contains 7 out of the 8 basic strokes. Okay. The third style is.
Oops, sorry.
Okay, it's all right. Is
A minute.
okay.
You won't go back. Previous. There we go.
Okay, thank you. So Gyōsho, which is semi-formal style or running style. Impact and strength are combined with rhythm and fluidity in this style. Lines are rounder and the strokes are more quickly executed than the angular and precise lines of Kaisho. So while, so my personal definition of Gyōsho is, I feel it's Gyōsho if you can still basically read what the kanji referred to in the block style. So you can see this, it's very similar to the one we saw earlier. And, but the strokes, if you can notice, are a little bit more fluid, a little bit more rhythmic. Okay, Sally. Then the fourth style we're looking at today is Sōsho. It's referred to as informal style or grass style. Lines in this style are livelier and even more fluid, giving the feeling of wind blowing grasses in a meadow or flowing water moving plants in a stream. Kanji written in Kaisho with, for example, 10 strokes might be written in Sōsho with just 1 or 2 strokes. A suggestive quality is an aspect of this style in which a character is essential, which a character's essential form becomes rather abstract. Most people who read Chinese characters typically are not able to read this script. So you can see that we went from 7 strokes down to 2. I wanted to,
Oh, you want to go back?
It's okay. Yeah, I just thought I'd give a little anecdote. So for those that have studied the 4 gentlemen of the 4 paragons, one of them is the wild orchid, which unfortunately don't grow here. So we have to just look at them through pictures. But the leaves are very grass-like. And so the story goes that the first Chinese artist who painted wild orchid described the leaves as a maiden washing her hair in the stream. So you can see that's referred to here in this description. So that's where this grass style meaning comes from. Okay, thank you, Sally. So I wanted to just show you that all together. You can just see the Tensho versus the Kaisho versus Gyōsho and Sōsho. So it becomes, so Tensho is still, I would say, closer to the pictograph stage of communication. And Kaisho develops into the more formal written form. But you can see the different styles. And okay, I think, yeah, so I wanted to just mention, as you look at the slide, each of us has a different rhythm, and the various scripts generate different rhythms. Just as in dancing, there might be light, heavy, quick, and slow movements, and that happens in calligraphy. So the different characters and styles generate different rhythms, and I'm hoping you can see that in this slide. Thanks, Sally. Okay, so what we typically do, and before I forget, I want to encourage anyone who's interested in studying Shodō, no matter what level of familiarity you are, we would love to have you join us. It's the second Tuesday of the month from 10:30 to 12:30. We're still doing it virtually. We often warm up by doing eternity because of the basic strokes. And these are some sample sheets the students have created when they're working on the basic strokes. Okay, Sally. Typically, what I've been doing is each year, I'll send out exemplars with the Asian zodiac sign for that year. But you should also feel free to work on any other characters as well. The exemplars will have the definition, and if you can read the page reference, that refers to Gotai Jirui, a kanji dictionary that I learned about from Mary. And it contains, if you can see, for example, if we look at the exemplar on the left-hand side, there's kind of a long rectangular block of about 3 columns. And at the very top will be the block style. And this comes out of the dictionary. And as you go down, reading right to left, which is the traditional way of reading, right to left, top to bottom, you'll see the kanji start morphing. It goes through the Gaisho into the Sōsho forms, and then it actually ends up with the more primitive forms at the very bottom. The exemplars also include stroke order, which is critical because if you don't write the strokes, lines and dots in the correct order, the character won't look right. And in certain zodiac signs, the character for that animal is different from the everyday reference to the animal. So in this year, the year of the dragon, the character, the exemplar on the left shows 2 kanji. The top one is a traditional Chinese form, and the bottom one is a simplified Japanese form. Both mean dragon in everyday context. And then the center exemplar is the character for dragon for the zodiac sign. It's very different. This is very interesting. The exemplar, students get both exemplars, and they each contain the same type of information, reference to the page number of the dictionary. And that is because my dictionary is pretty old and some students have newer editions, so the page numbers may not quite be the same, but if they can get close to the page number I give them, they will find this character. The thing with the Gotai Jirui dictionary is that you have to be able to read hiragana and katakana, the syllabaries of Japanese, to work through the dictionary. There are other dictionaries where you can find the characters by the number of strokes. Okay, and then the sheet to the far right, I think, I'm glad Sally included this. There's a book by Tanahashi where he gives examples of various styles, of various characters. It's not really a dictionary, but it's pretty complete. And then he'll describe the different ways of pronunciation. Oh, and I always have to give this explanation where I do not even try to pronounce Chinese words because I'm not a linguist. I learned that long ago. So whenever I say anything, and it's always in Japanese because that's just, I'm more comfortable and familiar with that. Okay, thanks, Sally. Also, I wanted to, I think if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. If you want to put it in the chat, we can do that and address them at the end of the presentation. Or if there's anything along the way you're very anxious to learn about, I think you should feel free to speak out. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. The first presentation will be by Kathy. So I've asked each student to say a few words, give you their thoughts about their Shodō journey. Okay.
Kathy, are you muted?
Thank you. Okay, so I'm at the point of doing Shodō where I'm not that skilled, but I can see what I'm doing wrong. And there were times when I was less experience where I didn't necessarily see, I won't say wrong, but not, there's some not imperfections, I guess. So what happened when in getting ready for this presentation, I was late because I had been moving, really, really busy, and had not been painting or doing anything like that. And I was frantically trying to get ready and not coming up with something I felt was high enough quality for this presentation. I wanted to do this version of Ryu because I was inspired. I study Tai Chi, and I've been taking a Tai Chi sword form class where we do various sword forms. And my very, very favorite posture, it's not really a posture because it's very dynamic, you're swinging a sword around, is called Black Dragon Swings Its Tail. And I really felt like this Sōsho version really kind of captured that. So I wanted to do this, but I wasn't totally satisfied. So I emailed Lois and said, is it okay if I do something imperfect and talk about, my struggles, the struggles of doing Sōsho, really, because it is very abstract. It's deceptively simple looking, and one is sometimes moved to take liberties because you get into the flow. So this is a version of dragon that is only 3 strokes, and some of them are long. And I find myself really wanting my arm to flow throughout that paper, However, if you compare the two, you can see that there are differences. So I think the main thing I struggled with in trying to master this version is the width, the distance between the second stroke, which is that long stroke that starts with, looks like a cobra's head and kind of curves around, and that last stroke, which comes down to the right and ends in kind of a turn. I kept getting them too far apart. And if you look at the exemplar, you can see it's a little more vertical. But this was the best version I had, and it was way past the deadline. So I sent it to Sally and I said, I'm going to talk about this. And then the other differences you can see are the endings of my second and third strokes, which are not like Tanahashi's endings. And the base of the second stroke, which is the cobra head stroke, is not as kind of linear and almost horizontal. And those are just some of the things I notice when they're side by side like this. But man, I really, really practiced. I went over and over. I even traced his version to help me get the widths, but it's very, very challenging. I guess in my favor, I think that with some of my versions, I did capture a certain energy and flow. It's not perfect, and it's not exactly like the exemplar, but I think I got a little bit of that, and I also was able to narrow my brush width from the cobra head down, and by pressure, changing the amount of pressure that I was doing, as Lois has taught us. So I don't know if there's anything else to say. But Lois, do you want to say?
Thank you, Kathy. That was wonderful. I do want to again give a little anecdote. So I thought it was really exciting to have you talk about your Tai Chi class. When I think it was the first workshop I took with Fumiko when she was teaching at Daniel Smith. It was a landscape workshop, and she was talking about tapping into our ki, and at the end of the class, I think I must have gone out for tea or coffee with one of the students, and her husband joined us, and he was a martial arts instructor. And I was going
Oh.
on about how, you know, interesting and exciting it was about, you know, trying to tap into this key, which I had not, you know, heard about or heard referenced before, since I had, you know, really not studied sumi-e yet, or Shodō definitely. And he proceeded to say that's exactly what, you know, he talked to his students about tapping into the, you know, ki or chi. Ki is the Japanese, chi is Chinese.
Uh-huh.
And I just thought, isn't that so fascinating that no matter what art form in, you know, these Asian arts, it all goes back to the ki. So when you talk about, and when you talk, what I appreciated with your presentation, Kathy, is that I feel like once you recognize the differences and the issues, you're halfway there, because if you don't realize what's going on, you really can't move on and improve. So I think you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Lois. And I'm also taking a Qigong class now too, which emphasizes the qi or the ki,
Yeah.
or
Wow.
ji actually. In Chinese, I think it's actually pronounced ji,
Mhm.
but it's all about the energy. It's
Yeah.
all, yeah.
You're right. You're really getting in touch with this. So
Does anybody else have any comments about this?
It
Thank
is,
you.
Kathy, I was wondering what Qigong is.
Oh, okay. It's
I'm sure I got that word right.
yeah. Sometimes you see it spelled QI with the new romanization they use in China, and Bob can probably elaborate on this. It's basically some exercises and motions to help mobilize your qi in your body, the flow of energy in your body. And that's a vast oversimplification because there's a lot to it.
isn't there a
Oh.
breathing aspect as well, Kathy?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
Again, I'm sorry, a little anecdote on the side. I have a friend who has moya, which is a condition where the blood vessels get smaller and smaller as they go into the brain. And she used to take Qigong with a friend of hers. And I would notice right after the class, I would talk to her, and she was much more alert, responsive, just so different after just coming out of the Qigong class, you know. And then as time went on, she would kind of progress to the condition that I was used to seeing her in. And I attributed that to the breathing and getting more oxygen through her body and to her brain. I thought it was really interesting.
oh, that
Well,
is
they would
interesting.
probably also say that it helps unblock energy flow along the meridians of the body. It helps unblock the qi or the ki flow.
Mhm.
So
Interesting. Thank you.
yeah,
All
thank
right.
you, everybody.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you,
That's
Lois.
wonderful.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, Bob.
Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be speaking. I'm criticizing my example up here. Seal script is hard. I've started studying calligraphy because I really wanted to and still want to learn Chinese. But I've become fascinated the last couple of years with seal script, and I love thinking about languages and the development of the languages. And seal script is, in some cases, a more representational script than standard script. The standard script has some representational pieces to it, but it's usually not very representational at all. So I became fascinated with seal script for a number of reasons. I say I love languages and I love their development and thinking about them. The other thing is that I cannot make a proper nail stroke reliably. And so I thought, well, I'll try something different. I'll try something that doesn't have that initial part of the nail stroke. And seal script just fit the bill. So I still can't do a proper nail stroke, but I have discovered, and particularly discovered That's what I'm just saying, I'm trying to particularly discovered this year just how difficult seal script is. And for me, there are two things that make it difficult, and you can see well, the problems in this character. This is the seal script dragon alone in Chinese. But difficulty, I need to practice making straight lines. There's along with curves. And there is the lines should all have the same width, which is for me very hard to do, as you see. And the ends need to be rounded. So no nail strokes involved in seal script, which is for me an advantage. But it does mean that you have to have the control of the brush to keep the lines pretty much the same width. And you see multiple examples in this of my failure at that. So same width requires a great deal of brush control. Rounded edges, which are just as hard as a nail stroke. So I haven't gotten any easier with this. But also, you've seen other examples as Lois has been talking of the regular character for dragon, and I should have put one by the side here, but you can see how the seal script character, which is, and for dragons, I don't know how this works, but more representational generally, but how that moves to the standard character for dragon, which is remarkably similar. In addition to problems with rounded ends of things and common widths, strong strokes, I had difficulty getting the two parts of the seal script closer together. What is before us is a bit of a cheat on my part. I actually, and thank you, Sally, for correcting this. You might discern a very fine line down the middle where I folded the paper so that the two sides of the character would be more properly associated with each other. So I've been doing this, Lois, for 3 years now. I'm still beginner. I'm still a beginner, but I love it. And I love the association between calligraphy and painting. I'm now learning painting. I'm a sumi-e, or shuimo, as it is in Chinese. And I was just very excited. And I thank Lois for her patience and for her kind suggestions. And I thank my fellow students for being there. I'm really enjoying this whole experience. So I don't think I had anything else to say.
Thank you so much, Bob. I will say I've learned a lot about seal script because Bob is the first one who wanted to study this form. And Frederick Wong, who's a local artist and calligrapher, describes the strokes here as lines without a beginning or an end, which is how you get the rounded ends, both at the beginning and the end of the stroke, while maintaining the same width pressure throughout. It's really challenging. I think this is actually, the ends, Bob, are more difficult than the nail head stroke. It's, yeah, it's,
Yes.
and you have, and Bob has improved as the years go on. And, I keep referring it to as a journey because it is a journey we're all on. And I love hearing that you're still very excited and passionate about it, Bob, because that's what it takes to keep moving forward. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Lois.
And I will say that I wanted to mention that we talk about the quality of the lines, but also the composition when there's more than one radical, for example, or you're working with more than one character. It's all about composition, which just adds another layer of challenge, into the work. Thanks, Bob. All right, so we'll have Dorothy next.
Before I start, I want to make a comment about people being not fond of what they were able to produce. So I did a lot of work for Lois this year, getting exemplars ready. And on many of those, I blew them way up so I could clean the backgrounds. And I want to tell you that every professional calligrapher that I worked on had ragged edges and weird ends, and it just doesn't show up when it's reduced to a small size in a book. So feel good about what you got done, because yeah, and if you don't believe me, take anything that we've been working on from any book you're in and blow it up about 400%, and it'll make you feel real good about what you've been able to accomplish this year. Okay, end of lecture. So I'm really glad that Lois continually worked with us this year on focusing on the basic brush strokes and the basic styles and what it would do to improve our Shodō output. And I'd been painting dragons for a few months before the year started because it was going to be the year of the dragons. And so rather than opting for my spring, summer, winter, and fall project for the rest of my life, I went ahead and tried to work on dragons. And there, Sally, did you put both of my images?
Yes, the next one will come
Are
up
you
after
gonna do it?
this.
Okay, so this is the astrological dragon, and it has 16 strokes, which is the most strokes of anything I've ever tried to do. And again, I want to point out on the second part of the first character, you see those little divots on the right-hand sides of where the stroke goes across. Those are actually in the blow-up of this of this character. And I was delighted to find that. I mean, I blew the character up so it filled a whole page, traced it, did it more than 65 times going for whatever it was I was going to turn in. And there are so many nuanced parts of it, like those little downward motions that I've got in the cross pieces of the bottom part of the left-hand stroke. And then and I just left it the way it was. On the right-hand stroke, the little nose that's hanging down from the upper right-hand side of the top section. That is not in the stroke, but I gave up at that point and just went for what I could do. But things like the strokes that go out to the sides on the bottom part of that second stroke, they are so nuanced in how thick and thin they are and the little degree of angle in each of those that doesn't really show up unless you blow the image up. So that I wanted to make a point about that. And then the other thing that is kind of difficult for those that are left-handed is.
Would you like to go to the next?
Yeah, go to
slide?
the next one. So this is the dragon, and I have photoshopped that so that all the sides would be clean. I didn't do this perfectly. So where the red lines are, I want to show you the parts that are difficult for a left-handed person because you cannot see what your hand is doing at the time. And Lois has done a fabulous job of working with us, first of all, to understand the problem by working with her other hand, and then coming up with ideas for what we could do to make our strokes better. But the ones that have the little lines around them are the ones that I've found most difficult. And I did find a suggestion online for left-handed folks that are trying to do Shodō, and it was to push instead of pull. So on that downward stroke, on the I don't know how to describe it, the downward stroke that's got a wide angle at the bottom. On that one, I pulled down and then twisted my brush so that it made a flat bottom and that little point. And I got that pretty well. Not as perfect as it is after I photoshopped it, but pushing instead of pulling on some of the strokes is really helpful. And I don't know if that would help right-handed people or not, but it was a Japanese teaching site, so I figured, well, I'm going to just try that. So, and then I wanted to tell about reasons for studying Shodō. So, unless anybody has any questions about my pieces. Okay, so I started studying Shodō so I could add basic kanji characters to some of my haiga art. I wanted to include those because they are graphic characters that show the sense of an entire concept without a lot of words like you have to do to describe a concept in English. And I just found that absolutely fascinating, and it's absolutely true. And when you look at definitions of the different ways the radicals can be used, you'll find a wonderful world of new understanding. And I wanted to point that out because I overheard a conversation one time coming out of Furcrest, and it was Mary Bottomley and Fumiko Kimura. And Mary Bottomley said to it was after a Shodō class. And Mary Bottomley said to Fumiko, well, they just don't understand the culture in about that tone. And so in all of this, of my interest in anything having to do with sumi-e or Shodō, that keeps ringing in my brain, and I try to take a wide perspective on whatever it is that we're doing, and not get too much hung up on. I can get hung up on stuff really easily, and remember, get too much hung up on how well I am doing against what everybody else does and what the book does and so on. But it's to develop some kind of a better understanding. Okay, so my first kanji in a painting after I experienced what haiku poets call a haiku moment. So Charlie Nichols was our Shodō teacher at the time, following Mary Bottomley, who was a PSSA co-founder. And so I want to tell this story. We were packing to move. I was feeling grumpy. If you've ever moved, you know what I mean, especially Kathy. Anyway, I heard a noise outside my studio window. I looked out, and a little sparrow was having the time of its life splash dancing in our concrete bird bath. A haiku moment for me. And I painted an abstracted sumi of the scene, a haiga with the following haiku: golden-crowned sparrow splashing in my bird bath, existential joy. So in addition to the haiku and a sumi painting, another element of the haiga was a large sumi kanji character for joy, which took in everything I saw that day with just one character. The memory of creating the haiga and the painting itself always make me happy, even if I'm having a grumpy day. For me, that is reason enough to keep studying Shodō, even though I know I will never be an expert. I know I will always be able to find a Shodō character that synthesizes an experience for me. Creating Shodō characters has its pains, pleasures, and byproducts. One of the pleasures and byproducts for me is improved handwriting and improved brushwork in sumi and any other paint media I use. Right now, I'm doing haiku comics, and I can get the littlest tiny end of my brush into some kind of very small character that I'm trying to do, even in haiku comics. And I want to say that Lois provides individual help to each of us students during our monthly Zoom classes, and also by email with personal mentoring and suggestions. And I invite anyone here and anyone you know who wants to add a special element to your art to take advantage of or join our Shodō class with Lois on the second Tuesdays of each month at 9:30 a.m. That's it for me, unless there are any questions or comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Dorothy. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
Really wonderful. And I have the utmost respect for Dorothy, Sally. Doing Shodō with your left hand has got to be one of the most challenging things one would ever do.
Thanks for recognizing it.
Oh my God. It's like Dorothy said, I'll try it with my left hand, and I'm going, oh my goodness. They have to work not even more than twice as hard as the rest of us, I'm sure, to get this.
The main thing is we're having to do part of it blind. Yes. These are all designed for somebody that can see what they're doing.
Someone with the right hand. Yes. Yeah, it's interesting because in my sumi-e classes, I'll tell a left-handed person, just do everything opposite, it's fine. But that does not work for Shodō. So thank you for being so resilient, Ellie and Dorothy. David too, when he has the time to.
Yeah.
David Berger, when he has time to work on his Shodō. So that was wonderful, Dorothy. Thank you so much. All right, Sarah. Is Sarah with us today? I didn't.
Is Sarah, if you're there, are you muted?
Yeah, I'm muted, not
Okay,
anymore.
okay, great.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so this one is Dragon in small seal script. And to give you an idea about how big it is, I wrote this on Hanshi size paper, which is 9.5 inches by 13 inches. So, so it's pretty good size. Basically, I wanted to take a break from Gyōsho. And I thought, I want to do something really different. And seal script came to mind because I really like seal script. I just think it looks really cool and it's really different. And for some reason, like looking at seal script, it's sort of, it looks to me very ancient. And a lot of people that have seen this one have said, oh, it looks kind of like hieroglyphics. Well, not really, but kind of. And so it just has this really ancient look to it. But on the other hand, I think it looks very modern. So I'm really kind of fascinated with it. And I wanted something different than Gyōsho. And what I have found by doing this is that it is like 180 degrees different than Gyōsho. I mean, you couldn't get any further. And I'll just go through some of a little bit of a comparison. The simplicity of the lines is a major thing. In Kaisho and Gyōsho, Sōsho, all that, there's all these different kinds of strokes. And you got to do them, you know, they're different widths, and it's just, there's just a huge variety in the number of strokes, that different kinds of strokes there are, and how they're used and all that. And, you know, I mean, here you have, the only thing that you really have here is how to start and end a line, which is the same. How to make a corner, and keeping your lines all the same width. I mean, that's it. And it's not easy. But it's just so refreshing to be able to have just this little bit of stuff that you have to remember, and be able to more just enjoy the character. A very cool thing about this is there's no stroke order. So you can write these things in any order you want. You can write them from right to left, left to right, whatever, which makes it absolutely perfect for left-handed people. Dorothy. You also, in Gyōsho, you're running very rapidly because you're using just one line. It may be touching the paper, it may be up in the air, but your brush is moving the whole time. And so, you know, in a few seconds, you've written your character. Something like this, we're talking minutes. We are not talking seconds. Maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes to write something like this. And so it's slow going. Consequently, you don't have to use a calligraphy brush. You don't have to have a brush that has this big reservoir of ink, because you got to have enough ink to be able to make the whole character. Because here, you can make your strokes where in whatever order you want, and you can dip your brush at the end of a stroke, or maybe after making 2 strokes, whenever you want. You can just stop and you can dip your brush. So what I used for this is a sumi brush. I found a calligraphy brush is very, very difficult to do the seal script with because of the point on the end. I'm using a brush here that I got from Yuming. It's his orchid bamboo. He sells 2 different kinds. There's a least expensive one and a more expensive one, and this is the more expensive one. And the thing about it is it doesn't really come to a point. It's rounded at the end, which is absolutely perfect for the way that you make the start of a line or the end of a line. So that helps a lot. It also helps a lot too if your brush is the diameter of your brush is the same width as your line. So it makes that really helps in keeping things consistent. Another huge difference with Gyōsho is when you look, well, even Kaisho and Sōsho, Gyōsho, all of those, you look at them, and a lot of people will look at calligraphy and they'll say like, oh, let's just look at the energy. I can just see all the energy in that thing. And there is a lot of energy, and when you make Gyōsho, you sort of have this energy internally yourself, and it sort of flows out, goes to the brush, and your brush is making all these, you know, swipes and sweeps and starting and stopping, and very rhythmic. And in something like seal script, you look at this and you say to yourself, well, you know, you're not noticing any energy really here. But for me, it is exhausting to make something like this, because you have an internal energy, and it has to be an energy of restraint. You have to keep those lines the same width You have to get the right spacing between the lines and all of this. And it's taking a long time to write this, right? I mean, it's minutes and you're exhausted at the end of it. So there, I think for me anyway, there was a lot more energy in expenditure in writing seal script than there is, for me anyway, in Gyōsho. When I first started looking into seal script, just to like look at examples and stuff like that, there is this huge variety of seal script styles, individual styles, because this is the most ancient of all of the like official scripts in China. This was started in, I think it's something like 221 or something BC, by the first emperor. He wanted to standardize the way that all these entire China, they were trying to unite it, that everybody would write the same. And it was kind of like, off with your head if you don't write like this. So everybody was writing in seal script. And the thing about it is that, it takes so long to write each character that and as civilization developed more and more, there was more things they wanted to write down, and this just took too long to write. So then they developed clerical script. So this was really only around as a writing script for, I don't know, several hundred years, maybe 400 or so. And clerical script took over, and then it wasn't that long after that that Kaisho was developed. But point being is that this is the most ancient script, but it has stuck around all these years because it lends itself very well to carving, and of course we have the seals. But it also has stuck around as an ornamental script. And like in Japan, when they first imported the Chinese characters into Japan, they were importing like, Kaisho and Gyōsho and all that. Seal script was, way in the distant past, and never was a written script in Japan. It was always strictly an ornamental script. And because of that, I mean, think about that. You got over 2,000 years of all these artists, okay, running the seal script, and every artist is going to do it different. And so there is just this huge variety of how it's written. And it goes like from this look where the lines are very, very narrow. The ends of the line, of course, they're all the same width, and the ends of the lines are all like the same radius, very neatly rounded. And really, it is so perfect that for me, it looks like a computer-generated font. I don't know how people do it. But you have that extreme, and then you go through all these different variations out to the point where you're looking at something like very similar to like what Yu Ming did on his demo that we had early in the year when he was writing Dragon in seal script. And it was very rhythmic and somewhat energetic and stuff like that. So, when you're starting to say to yourself, well, I want to try seal script. Well, you kind of got to look out there like, well, what kind of seal script do you want to write? This one that I'm have written here is just sort of a, more of a like a plain vanilla sort of thing. And but there's this giant variety, and certainly you can go all different directions with it.
Thank you, Sarah.
Pardon me?
Fascinating. It's really
Yeah.
fascinating. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
This is great. Great perspective. Okay, Emily?
Oh, hi, everybody. Yeah, as you can see from the ragged edges, I am very much a beginner also. And that's why I stick with the Kaisho style, because it's by far the simplest for me. But one of the reasons I really liked doing the Shodō classes with Lois, apart from being with all the nice people in the group, is that it harks back to another disciplined art that is dear to my heart, which is dressage riding. I don't know if there are other horse people here today other than Lois, but dressage riding began ages ago training the war horses. And it's evolved nowadays. You know, you probably have all heard of the Vienna Lipizzaner horses. They call them the dancing horses. Anyway, dressage is very difficult, as is Shodō, and it requires the same focus and control to get that centered energy, and it's the effort it takes to get into that calm state is definitely very worth it, and to end up with some beautiful art, or with the horses, beautiful performances and a beautiful relationship with the animal. Everybody else has pretty much said what I'd planned to say, but generally I do it because I really love the calming influence and the centeredness that we get from it, and to participate in a group of people who are after the same thing I am is such a pleasure. So that's really all I can say about it. Like I say, everybody else has covered the important things that matter to me too. So thank you. I'm glad to be part of the group.
Thank you so much, Emily. There is this, we haven't addressed it, this meditative aspect of Shodō. And I mean, applies to both art forms, you know, the sumi-e and Shodō. I'm not sure how many members actually grind their ink, but just the grinding of the ink is part of that meditative process. And I actually, years ago, I only read an article. I hadn't seen the artist's work. And I'm not even sure if the Azuma Gallery in Seattle is still open, but it was a calligrapher from Japan who was showing his work. And he was also in somehow related to the health field. And he related calligraphy to helping improve one's health and general well-being. And for those of us that have felt those meditative moments that Emily's referred to, can see how that can apply. So I think that's a great aspect to bring in. Thank you, Emily. Okay, Sally.
Okay. Well, what I've been focusing, well, first of all, I think many of you know that I'm a Western calligrapher, and there are several tools and techniques that one uses to create Western calligraphy, whether it's a broad flat edge pen, or a pointed pen, or a pointed brush, or a flat brush. And by far, my favorite script in Western calligraphy is with the pointed brush. And I think I found that as a left-hander, it's one that I can control a little bit more, or I thought I could, until I started doing Shodō. But I love the energy and the chi, and I'll just echo what Emily said. Most everything that we all could say has probably already been said. But this year I've been focusing on getting that chi flowing, getting that inner flow of energy happening. At the same time, I put this little piece over here in the lower left-hand corner to show that I've been focusing on, as you know, when we do Kaisho, which is the basic form of kanji, they fit neatly into a grid. And I've been working hard to, in fact, I printed up several of these grids in a fairly large size, and then sometimes I'll sketch the character into the grid so that I can get those proportions correct. And so I've been focusing on that, as well as trying to get my chi flowing over here on the right side, the Sōsho version of Dragon,
And believe me, my floor was littered with many, many, many of these. But I found that the more I did it, always going back and looking at my exemplar as I was doing these. And I think that that's an important thing to do, because you can develop bad habits so quickly. And sometimes when I felt like I had created something that was, in my estimation, a little swoon-worthy, then Lois would point out, well, you know, this vertical and that diagonal stroke are not quite as loose or free or something as they should be. And she's always just absolutely right on. And I so have appreciated her expert guidance in getting us to the point where we feel, if not comfortable, a little more comfortable with creating our images. So these were the two forms, the Kaisho and the Sōsho dragon, that I focused on this year. And going back to, and last year I realized when I get so excited, especially in Western calligraphy too, with flourishing and getting my chi flowing in the Western world, I was spending too much time on the Sōsho version of things, realizing what I really needed to do was go back and put some bones behind it and study the Kaisho a little bit more. So I've been spending more time on Kaisho. And then here was my Kaisho of the Shin, the zodiac dragon that you've seen several renditions of so far. And like Dorothy, I have a difficult time with the trailing stroke, which is the lower right-hand stroke there, because it is difficult for a left-hander to twist that last part of the stroke to get that point and get that, what I call the foot, out there the way it should be. But I've given a lot of time to that this year too. And then I've also, over the last couple of years, been playing with the Four Seasons. And I included these because I had a Gyōsho that I just really kind of liked. It's got some warps and some issues with it here, but it was fun to, I think I really got my chi going on that one, even though it has some warts and some problems. But here were my 4 renditions of the Four Seasons. And I have just thoroughly enjoyed this because it is something that fits very well with my first love, which is Western calligraphy, but now I can bring in the aspect of these beautiful kanji characters to that skill. So thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Sally. Great. This is a wonderful presentation. Melinda.
Well, I don't know what to say now. Boy, everybody's calligraphy was beautiful. And you'll see in mine, I don't really, I mean, I kind of strive for perfection, but I really just, I'm a mixed media person at heart. And I took up with calligraphy because I always wanted to sign in my garden that I have this little place in my garden. I think of my little Japanese zendo rain watching pavilion, and I wanted to sign, and I was always going to ask my Taiwanese neighbor to write me a sign. And then Vosky Sprague said, oh, you've got to learn calligraphy because that's the bones of sumi painting. So first studied with Charlie, but I wanted to learn calligraphy too. I love it more than any other aspect of it, of the sumi art. And Lois, I wasn't very good at it, I see, until we got with Lois and we learned the 8 basic strokes. And that turned a corner for me where I really could see the spaces, the pressure in the brush, the ends of the strokes, how important everything was. I never even really knew about that before we got with Lois. So anyway, to go on here, I did so many samples and stuff of I don't ever really concentrate on one character. I wanted to try them all. I was really excited when the Year of the Dragon came. And so when it came to do a project for this one and do a perfect kanji for it, I just looked at all my examples and everything I tried on Lois's exemplar she gave us. I tried a lot of them. I think that's part of the fun of it for me, is just see if I can do that. And I use different papers, and I use different kinds of brushes, and I just love it all. And I love also to make things. I love to sew. I love to do mono printing. I love to do it also. I like to use calligraphy to make that all come together. So I had taken a free class in March, I think it was, that is run every year by Drew Steinbrecher. He's an artist. I think he's American, but he lives in England, and he puts together a free collage challenge every year with 5 different teachers. And every day you get a different teacher, a different technique. And when it was his turn, he introduced us to using children's books, the children's board books that preschoolers have, and using those and just collaging directly into them, not planning anything, he just glues, he doesn't even paint them. He glues right over the old images. He also, I didn't realize it till I'd already started this book, has a really good, he's on Instagram, and he's, if you look him up, Drew Steinbrecher, he also has a really good 10-minute video on using board books for your art, for sketchbooks, for putting together. I thought it would just be perfect for putting together all the images of dragons I'd painted and gathered, and all the different characters that I wrote, tried. They're not perfect. They looked a little scrappy together when I started putting them in my book. So a lot of them, like this particular one, I copied over onto some rough mulberry paper that I had. And in fact, I wasn't even sure what style this is. I was looking at the exemplars from the Tanahashi, or from the exemplars Lois gave us. And this is one of the ones I tried. And I really like it. I like that blocky style. And I can't even remember quite how I got those straight lines. So the way I did it, but I did it with the super white cloud brush, most of these, and or that particular one. This one I have my mono printing. I cut out a dragon. I carve a lot of rubber stamps, so the pattern on the dragon is my rubber stamp carving, and that's just one of the pieces of the basic Chinese dragon, the Kaisho. So that one is the Tanahashi example, and you can see it's a little rough, but so is my art, and I just put it together that way. I combined a lot of things on paper and kind of mocked up pages. You can see there's the seam down the middle is the seam down the book. And then I don't know, it was all kind of experimental. The pattern on the dragon was just a eraser from a pencil that I just cut into a triangle, because I was trying to do dots, and I didn't really like that one that well. So anyway, go on to the next. Oh, okay. So the one on the left, I tried to do some hiragana. My daughter was born the year of the dragon, and I wanted to make her a card for Mother's Day. And I found online how to write Happy Mother's Day in hiragana. So I have the green dragon carrying a flag for mothers that says Happy Mother's Day in hiragana, Japanese alphabet. So that was fun to try to do that, too. So you can see this is all kind of a big experimentation that I do. The one at the bottom was a dragon that I painted when I first started learning sumi painting from Darlene Dial at the Girls and Boys Club in Gig Harbor. I had met her at a Gig Harbor art studio tour where she was showing her work, and she said, "Oh, you should take my classes." So I did, and then she said, "You should join PSSA." So I did, and just went on. And then I met Vosky, and she said, "You should take calligraphy." And so it went on from there. And Dorothy Matthews, that I knew through a watercolor group, she was all about it too. So we joined together and commuted together to Tacoma and just had fun. But this is like one of the first dragons I painted 12 years ago. I still had a file on the things that I did back then. And the examples at the bottom, the one on the left is the Japanese way of writing dragon. And is it Tatsu, Lois? Tatsu? Or I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Ryu or Tatsu.
Yeah, I have it written down someplace, but anyway, and then the rest are kind of like everybody else's, but it's a scrappy book. That blue piece on the side was just filling in with some of my mono printing, and I did about 12 pages. I filled the whole book up, and it was, it's this book. I started out with a 4-inch book, but I had to go to the Goodwill and find one that was bigger. So I found a 7-inch board book at the Goodwill, but they have them at the Dollar Tree too. But they're real fun to work with, and really a good place so that you can put your art all in one place and look at it whenever you want, instead of mine was just in a big cardboard box. So that's why I decided to do a book. And I love making them.
Well, and I'd like to add that in putting this presentation together and getting all of these and your spreads from your book, she got me all excited about this. And so I ended up buying a bunch of board books at Dollar Tree. And I just think this is wonderful. So thank you for the inspiration, Melinda.
Playing them so well. When I saw everybody else's on the white paper, I thought, oh, I wonder how mine are gonna show up, or how you were gonna do it. But you did a beautiful job. Thanks, Sally. I appreciate it. And
Well,
I really recommend, if you're gonna work with a board book, to be sure to look at Drew Steinbrecker's video, because he has a tip that I didn't know. He has tips and tricks on using board books. And one of them was, before you start, they're bound together in a different way than most books. And you should split the back open and take off the back and take off the tape that binds it and put your own tape on. So then your books will lay flat, whereas mine wants to kind of spring open. So I'm going to actually do that, change the spine on the book so it'll lay flat. I put weights on it every day, but it, it didn't help. Dorothy?
Melinda, what glue did you use?
I started out just using my white PVA glue, and it was really it's thicker than Mod Podge, and then I ran out about a third of the way through, and I ended up just using Mod Podge. And one of the things you don't want to do is, if you one thing I really had almost a disaster with was I bought the really that kind of rough, well, you can see it in these pictures, really rough handmade mulberry paper. It's very thin. It's got holes in it and leaves and stems and stuff. And instead of painting the glue onto the book, which I usually do, I wasn't thinking, and I painted it onto the paper, and the paper just wants to disintegrate with that moisture from the Mod Podge is a lot thinner than PVA glue. So if you do it, don't paint the book. it really works well. The books have such heavy boards on them. You can just paint right on and just stick your papers right on it. And I used a brayer every time to smooth them out, to roll them out and get them really flat.
Could you use matte medium?
Yeah, you could use matte medium. That'd be good
Or
too.
yes paste, maybe yes paste.
Yeah, yes paste would be good too.
Yeah, yes paste. I used to use yes paste years ago, a lot of years ago, but every time I went to use it again, it was dried up. And I kept having to buy
I
more.
add water. You can add hot, warm water to it.
Can you?
Yeah,
I wish I'd known that.
I mean, not too much, but
Yeah, it's good. Yes paste is good. Yeah,
Hey,
but
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. As you can see, Shodō is a process, it's a journey, but how creative you all are. I just hope our members have gained some inspiration and new ideas from your work with Shodō. It's just wonderful how everyone has a different, I'm glad that you each brought up, I had hoped that you would share what your goals were, why you were studying Shodō. Everyone has their own reason. And, you know, as long as we can help you along your journey, that's the goal. And I just am so appreciative and excited that you were all so productive. It's been a wonderful journey for me to see your growth. I just really appreciate the work and effort that you put into all this. So
Lois,
much, yes.
excuse me, did you see the question in the chat about how to sign up for your class?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, you might want to
Oh,
mention
okay.
to get
Yeah,
on your
I get it.
mailing list.
Sorry. Yeah, please just email me and I'll include you on the email list. Just a slight correction. It is the second Tuesday of the month, but we've changed the time to 10:30 start.
Oh,
We used to begin at 9:30, but it's 10:30 to 12:30 now.
okay. Is Christelle still here?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, Christelle, I don't see a place to save the chat.
The chat is sent to me by Zoom later on.
Oh, okay, all right.
All right. And there was one question. I'm not good with chat. So this is the Tanahashi book that we've had
That you were
reference to.
using, okay.
It's Heart of the Brush. Celinda is the one that brought this to my attention. It's a great book. And it's by Heart of the Brush by Kazuaki Tanahashi. And I always have, let's see, the ISBN number is 978-161-180-1347. It's a great reference.
It is.
And what I can do is that ask you, Lois, and all the students, like maybe all the tips and references, and I can put this into the next newsletter.
Okay, great.
That would be great.
Oh,
Good
thank
idea.
you.
Great idea. All right. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't see where I asked the question. Anyway, I'm new. What mature? Hello?
Oh, I just was going to try to spotlight myself.
Oh.
There. Yeah.
I'm
No.
new and I'll be coming to your class. I think I've written to you
Yes,
already.
yes, I have
Yes.
before again.
What materials should I have ready?
I will send you a supply list after class.
Great.
This meeting. Thank you, Marilyn.
And where to get whatever. I do have some brushes, but I don't know if I have the right ones. And so thank you. This has been wonderful.
you'll love
Great.
it, Marilyn.
Thank you
Yeah.
for mentioning it, Dorothy.
You are very welcome.
So Marilyn, where do you live? Maybe we can share some of our supplies with you.
Yeah,
Well, I'm out in, probably not near you. I'm in Redmond and near
Oh.
the lower Cascade Hills.
Uh-huh.
and we
Yeah.
do get together in person at Christmas time. So if you are coming over for our Christmas meeting and we have a list, maybe you'll get some presents.
Well, I'm excited about this because I was in Japan and I did have a calligraphy course. I was in at a moto, a Shinto community, and I loved it. That was 20 years ago. And I've been looking for this kind of thing for the last 20 years.
Oh
And
my.
I've played with it, but I know nothing about it. So
I'm
thank
glad
you,
found
thank
us.
you.
Glad you found us. I would like just a few minutes. I think maybe Casey and I were the only two that went to Midori's house when her children were trying to clear it out. The announcement was set out that the family invited people to come and were asking for donations. So I brought back a load of Shodō or sumi-e materials from Midori's house. And I thought, I haven't figured out how to put this together yet, but I wanted to kind of sort things and then maybe offer some hands-on. There's so many brushes, so many materials. I want to show you a few of the things. And I'm hoping we can all, make donations and contribute to her stay at the facility where she's at in Stewart Park. But it was, if you've not been to Midori's house, I had never been before. It was fascinating. Truly an artist's house. It was remarkable. But I just wanted to show you a few things so that maybe to get you excited, whether you do sumi-e or Shodō, because the four treasures are the same. She had an amazing amount of materials, needless to say, since she was, an amazing calligrapher. So, where to begin? So I have never seen a suzuri this large. This is so heavy. I can barely lift it. So here's a traditional, let's see. Can you see this? This is a traditional size that you would typically see in a store, right?
Yes.
This is the size that it's been used because I was taking some of the dust off and it came off. This is the largest stone I have. It's a commercial one. This is, I believe, how do I call this? One of the traditional handmade stones. There were at least 2 quarries in China and 1 in Japan where they were able to find these rocks. Some of them are underwater, and you can tell by the and some are very intricately carved. Let's see, maybe I'll switch cameras. But this one, Bill Colby, it was in his collection. And when we were able to, oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna do this other shot here. Overhead shot. I'm sorry, I'm not quite ready here.
Lois, we can't see that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to switch to my camera.
Lois,
Yeah, anyway, I'm sorry. My camera's
we can't.
okay here. Okay.
Thank you.
Can
which is
you
Bill
see?
Colby?
Yeah, okay. So this is Bill's. Can you see how different it looks? It's more hand done. It's very organic. I don't know how to describe it. My experience with I don't know, I'll call them real stones, is when I was studying with Fumiko in the beginning, she has a stone like this, and she let me borrow it in one class and one of my sessions with her. And I could just tell by grinding on her stone how different it felt. I don't know how to describe it. It was so different. Now, I was just a beginner, so I can't say the ink, quality was that much better, but I'll never forget how it felt grinding ink on her stone. And Bill's feels the same way. It's just the surface just feels different. It looks different and it feels different. So for those that don't grind, our goal when we grind ink is to create an even suspension of the same size particles. So how you grind your ink for painting is really critical. Not so critical with Shodō. Mary would just use a lot of pressure and grind her ink because you're not looking for tonal variation. Now, this is the size of the largest stick I found from Midori's. Is this working? This is a traditional size stick. Let's see, let me get
Yes, we can see Lois.
okay, because I don't, if it's too dark.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. There must be larger sticks. I think I might have seen Celinda, maybe you know as well, but this is amazing, truly amazing. And then oh, so the 4 treasures, right? Sumi, Suzuri, brushes. All right. Let's see. I was going to show you one of my works, but I didn't. This is typically the largest brush I use. All right. This is one I use a lot. I purchased this from Yu Ming. I haven't used it yet. I think because I'm thinking how much ink it's going to take to use this brush, but you can see how all the hairs are dark. This brush is a combination. It has both light and dark. Now, this was one of the brushes from Midori's collection. This is a doll so that Yu Ming used to hide hairs. It is huge. It's oh, and I think it's I was going to mention too. So Sarah talked about the orchid bamboo brush. So it has all dark hairs, and you can see this is also a dark haired brush. And the orchid bamboos don't come to the same point as either a combination brush or a brush with all white hairs. At any rate, I look forward to figuring out how to utilize all of the treasures from Midori. They can become available to you, whether we auction or whether we just ask for donations. Oh, I also wanted to mention the paper. So many of you know probably that the calligraphy paper is different from sumi-e paper, and I don't know the names. Unfortunately, I don't know the names of the papers that Midori has. What was interesting though is she had one roll of paper that was marked extra wide, and it was like, so typically, for those of you, well, many of you probably buy your papers in rolls, and those are like 13 by 54. And the thing is that in the United States, the full sheets we get here are 27 by 54. So those rolls are just full-size sheets cut in half lengthwise to make them easier to handle. Midori has some papers that she had marked extra wide, and they are like 44 inches long, wide. I don't know how long it is. I haven't unpacked it. And it feels different. It's the only way I can describe it. What I'd like to do is to somehow set it up where she's got so many brushes that I would set up a situation where you could test the brushes and maybe play with the paper a little bit to see if you have any interest in I'll say purchasing, but making a donation for the materials that she has. Anyway, I'm excited to get them ready for you at some point. I don't know when that'll be, but hopefully you'll look forward to seeing all these new materials, because the thing is that obviously these came from Japan or China. She also had a lot of practice calligraphy paper. For those of you in the Shodō class, it's very different from the hanshi paper. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because the only other person I saw at Midori's house was Casey. We were there for books, both of us. And then I ended up seeing all of her sumi supplies. So, and the family was very anxious to have me bring them to be able to share with people who, appreciate the materials. So you have something to look forward to at some point. All right. Thank you.